诸佛正法圣僧
In the
众，
Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and so on, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and so on, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and so on, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all beings enjoy happiness and the cause of happiness. May they free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion.
That's all. Oh, congregation Jalwanjong, Obame Jimepa, Chiba Mebata Mep, One Mebando Mepa, Tadetumen Tenjimi, Jubani Kedem. Zobe Sonjen Hanamji, Tambatela Chansa, Ladon Lodon Hamelmonji, Umbutang, Yazan Lazo, Chuja Sula Sava Sebanum. Sonje Sura of the Shiki Devi Jujurban, the Hiji Tombi, Chunis, and the Congress and Congress, like a Mandaran, the going down to Novich, Mabas, Saune, but no coin. Conjure la Padro, up the Giga, when the Makai, but it up from the Tawa Tombe, good to Sunis and Enrique on that long. So you did not, they give how much for concert. Thank you, Tembi Chuji Chambepe, Semban de Batanji, and the like a Ludon Legend, John Dano, me, Kenam. Duagunji Danam Jazamba, Tamji Kedo Daki, Chutin, do. La Sota, Teni Tomretela. Train Papa thinking the one you case of a Tupachi Mundo and Zindana, Pimkin number Lenja Yons Zobala, and some to take the Chinese.
那首先呢，今天欢迎
So, to begin with, today I would like to welcome all of you to this lesson of the teaching the Noble Sutra Mahayana on dependent arising.
Changchuk Semji San them the doors of Gamruchis, Galde, Karisogoro, Tab Dinum, Zendana, Mount Chivate, Jenamba Sanji, young Gupachin, the Tibachim Limba injury. Then a young Kashi, those on dog, and that candid dog of Young Cheada, that Candizo, Chipuk Che in Kina, the Raz of Yogana degrees.
那首先呢，在我们
So, before we start, since this teaching will be about Sutra, I would like you to first bring to your mind the bodhicitta and then develop a little bit in your mind. The reason is that for most of you, it will be thinking and studying this teaching, which is Buddhist teaching on first, and then something about the Mahayana, the great vehicle in general. So, of course, if some of you are just here out of interest and just want to listen to what is said, then you can just wait like that and do nothing.
Papa thinking the one you case of a Tibachim Dun, the Ni Tepache, and Dala Sambache, Sambe Dondo Chess of the deep hand, the Lalings Tan, Yumseling in something, Sam with religious some which is.
And so by developing the enlightenment, what I mean is that I propose you to think about all sentient beings that are as numerous as the space is vast, and think that you're going to listen to this teaching on the Sutra of Dependent Arising, think about it, reflect on it, and meditate on its meaning. And so that way you will be able to reach full enlightenment and thus help all sentient beings. And so the teaching that you will be, the teaching that we will be, the teaching that we will be studying today, so the lesson will be about the Sutra of the Dependent Arising, as you all know. And so when we talk about the profundity of teachings, whether they're profound or not, what we should take as a measurement is if it is beneficial to the people who are being taught or not. This is the first thing. And the second is whether it allows sentient beings to understand the nature of phenomena or not. But otherwise, in general, to decide that teachings are profound or not is not really possible. And so the Buddha has taught 84,000 different sections of Dharma, and each of these different sections are meant to correspond to the specific needs and capacities and intentions of all different sentient beings. And on top of this, they should allow to all the sentient beings to realize the nature of phenomena. And so this will decide whether sentient teachings are profound or not. And so, in order to decide whether a teaching is profound or not, there doesn't necessarily need to have a very prestigious or very pompous name. The teaching must not be very elaborate either. And so I have two short stories to share with you about that. And so within the 16 Staviras, or the elders, there is one who was called the Sublime Small Road. And so at the beginning, he was extremely stupid. His intellectual capacities were extremely feeble. And so when he was studying the syllable when he was taught a, and so when he, after having learned and when he was taught the second syllable, which is a, he had already forgotten the first syllable. So he was stupid to the point of forgetting the first letter that he has just learned when he reached the second one. And so when the Bhagavan gave him 4 verses of teachings to learn by heart, So he spent 1 month reciting it every day, all the time, and he didn't still learn it by heart after 1 month. And yet, because there were the herdsmen listening to him behind them, they had already learned it by heart, but him not. So that's how he was stupid.
tadande tsukla khang to sola kedriya po jamme khanala lamne khano te lapshi do asa ta koran namju duldan tamase namju koran jiping no keja hede go yobe yin sana kholo le damso sin tubare dul pon tama pon se te lamne tene kedr japshu sumbares
And so finding skillful methods, the Buddha told him that he didn't need anymore to learn by heart the teachings, but he should be cleaning the dirt in front of the temple where monks would gather. And so the Buddha asked him to recite, to keep reciting two sentences. I get rid of dust and I get rid of stains. And so because these words were very common words, then he was able to retain them and he was able to recite them. And so in general, he had a very strong faith in the Bhagavan, in the Buddha. And so whatever he was taught, he would do when it was the Buddha who asked him. And so he did what the Buddha asked him. And so, through having accumulated merit in the cleaning the things that way, then he was able at some point to understand that, oh, actually what the Buddha meant by getting rid of dust is not normal dust, but it is actually the dust of negative emotions, of afflictions. And when the Buddha was talking about stains, it's not about normal stains, but it is the stains of habitual tendencies. And so because of that, then for this specific person, these words, get rid of dust and get rid of stains, was the deepest teaching and the most profound teaching that there was. And so there's another small story, a very nice one, that I want to share with you. So this story also comes from the sutras. And so there was an elder person, another man who became a monk. And so because he had not become a monk until he had become old, then he didn't know very much about the Dharma. And there was an elder woman who was besides there, and she had a lot of devotion to the monks. And so she made an extraordinarily vast amount of offerings and respect that she showed to them. And so this elder lady went to this elder monk, and offered him a very precious piece of cloth and asked him to teach her. And so this elder monk, because he didn't know much about the Dharma, he was wondering what he would teach, what he could teach. And so he got extremely anxious. He was really disturbed by the situation in which he was found. And so he talked to himself. He was not meaning that this teaching was heard, that was heard by the old lady, but he said, not knowing is really suffering, isn't it?
Desong tadandi gemo yanda mo rangini la teba yoba tandi junsin tang chu te teletene da chomba komo to so res
yang zhao zhong ba to so
and so this old lady thought that this was such an incredibly profound teaching, because she understood that the ignorance or not knowing was actually suffering, was the cause of all the suffering. And because of that, because of her great faith and because of her the way she took this sentence, then she was able to reach the level of arhatship. So this had become an extremely profound teaching for her. And so for that old lady, for this benefactor, the teaching of this sentence of this old monk, which was simply not knowing is really suffering, has become the most profound teaching, because that is the one that enabled her to realize the nature of all phenomena, which is the emptiness.
Jagar ke nalinda kheba to sore beg kanchi jong kheba to ke sona ta chomden de song ya ju ge chu tamche ge nani ji xu da wo yin song yores
ji xu len ne
ji xu
song
gen zhe ji pa samu de se khasang
je
yo o ti ji xu se de ta pena chablan da ji yin ba yana.
And so in general, and so in general, when it comes to deciding whether a teaching is profound or not, we have no other choice but to rely on whether this teaching corresponds to the need of a certain person or not, a certain being or not. There's no other way to decide how profound the teaching is. But for the present sutra that we are going to study, Noble Mahayana Sutra on Dependent Arising, then this specific sutra has been agreed on by many all the teachers from India and Tibet, that it is the most profound teaching, so it is the most cherished teaching. And so, as it has been said in the letter to a friend that is composed by the Supreme Nagarjuna, there's a part of it which says this dependent arising is the profound cherished point within the treasury of the conqueror's teachings. The one who correctly sees it will have apprehended the supreme aspect of the Buddha, the one who sees suchness. And so, in order to summarize all of this, what this shows is that whoever it might be, whenever someone understands the dependent arising, this person will have the ability to get enlightened.
COVID zawa ju be mari pat yung mares tan COVID zawa ju mari pon na thawa thomre thomje ji khong thomro di jumsin ji goni ta ma chu na yo tendi ta khona shu gam na yo tendi ta gam Ota tri ji nyamni chen tam de khona nye prasa tam de khona de pre che go res tendi ji song na pe ding jung de na chen thom bo hu ji ya yo res
那再下来呢，我们看到升天菩萨造
And so
的。
as one of the students of Nagarjuna, who is Aryadeva, he has said in the text that he has composed, which is the 400 verses, ignorance will not occur if dependent arising is seen. Here, I will thus do every effort to teach on that very subject. And so because the cause of all the suffering is the ignorance, not knowing, and once one is able to get rid of this, then we will be able to reach enlightenment. And so that's why Aryadeva is saying here that he will do every effort to only teach about and think about the dependent arising and only meditate on that. And it is to that extent that this theme has been deemed profound. And so it is on this subject of it, dependent arising, that we are going to study and teach.
Sungdong Dramada, Gandon Dramada, Nisum Jure, the Trinde, Papa Tenjin, the one you are kissed about those things.
And so, generally speaking, in the Kangyur, or in the collected words of the Buddha, this teaching is found in many different forms. Some of them have the title of the Sutra on Dependent Arising. In some other sutras, this same teaching is called the essence of, or the heart of dependent arising, and some others the ritual of the dharani of the dependent arising. So there are 2-3 different names, but out of this we'll be studying now the one which is called Noble Mahayana Sutra on dependent arising.
Mata donde zo de pa junking lo zawanam che de yimbike kechares.
那今天这次课堂呢，就是
And so, what we will teach here. So when we study this sutra here, there are differences in the translators who have done translators, and then there are differences in translations. Sorry, so this present teaching is meant primarily for the translator who are going to translate sutra, but since we also open this occasion for other people who might be interested in learning about the sutra of the Tibetan rising, then I'm going to expound it according to the benefits that I have cited before, and then we're going to go through the sutra this way. And so if we look at the way that this the sutra has been put together and the way it has been translating, first we find there are 3 sections in this sutra. First, it is the name of the sutra, then there's the homage of the translator, and then the second part will be the sutra itself, and at the end, the colophon, which will explain which the translator, which Pandita have translated it.
第二个呢，就是和这个译师有关的这些部分，然后 对不起，第二个呢就是这个经的主题或者说主体的部分，然后第三个呢就是最末的和意识有关的这个部分。那首先
And
呢，
so in this first part, so the name of the sutra and then the homage of the translation, and then we'll have the name. And so in Sanskrit, so the beginning of the sutra is written in Sanskrit, Arya Pratitya Samutpadana Mahayana Sutra. And then afterwards, there's the name that was translated in Tibetan. And so Khenpo is saying that we can say the name in English or in Chinese. So in English, the Noble Mahayana Sutra on Dependent Arising. And so generally speaking, Arya means sublime. And Pratitya Samutpada means dependent arising.
It is called Nama.
And Nama means it is called, or the name is. And Mahayana Sutra means a sutra of the great vehicle. So altogether, the Mahayana Sutra, which is called dependent arising. And so something I would like to share with the translators is that this dependent arising, the sutra dependent arising, is not something that is specific to the Mahayana. And for example, even in the tradition of Theravada, so in the tradition of the Vaibhashikas, then this sutra on the dependent arising is one of the sutras that they accept as valid Buddhist teachings. And so this makes this sutra extremely special because it is a sutra that is found in all the traditions, starting from the Theravada until the Vajrayana, and each tradition, each vehicle is going to be expounded or explained according to each of the vehicles. And so this sutra is said in the Theravada to be a sutra of their own tradition. In the Mahayana, it is said that it is a Mahayana sutra, and then in the Vajrayana, then it is said that this sutra is a tantra of the Kriya section. And so in Tibetan Buddhism, then this sutra is also put in the section of the tantras. And so there are four sections of Tantra: Kriya, Upa, Yoga, and Unsurpassable Tantras. And so out of these, Jame Khyentse Wangpo has categorized this Sutra, the dependent arising, in the section of the Kriya Tantra is divided into the tantras which allow to understand or to realize the sutras and the Kriya Tantra, And out of these two, this Sūtra of dependent arising is categorized as the Tantra that allow the realization of sutras. And so right after, in the text that we find this sentence that says homage to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And so this has been added by the translators. It is the homage of the translators.
那这个敬礼一切佛菩萨呢，是当时藏地的译师呢加上去的，它不是在这个梵文原来里面的。
Denindi perketul junhinde shuchi julosa pendi hit this. Ta khong chason desi ka tu kap tendi chela jurjure khang gu judu ka ngala ta tombo sonje da sonju samba tamjele ya cheba jodi dena njur tamjela parche mayo cheta. Then maumba ngarong sunda woji yenjuk jangki tamje ganda yana tombo de jongo ngala sonje da sonju samba tamjele chansa lo se ngak goni joyata yeji goni sambra la soba tasolatine sonam ji chu ya chembo sabu ki goba yobi jumsin goni tombo de jine njurcha se ne yabores.
所以呢，就是这
And so this second one has been so this homage has been added by Bende Yeshide, who was one of the translators at the time of Trison Detsen, the King Trison Detsen, and so he added this homage for a few reasons, out of which the first one is in order to not have any obstacle during the process of translation, and the second one is for people and practitioners in the future, so that they will be able to accumulate merits, to accumulate great amount of merits by reciting it and by thinking about this. And so now, at this point, when it starts with that did I hear at one time, then we are starting the actual sutra. And so when we explain or study sutra, then there are 5 points that we're going to look at. First is what was the time at which this sutra was taught. Second point is who was the one who was teaching this sutra. Third point is what was the place where this sutra was taught. Fourth is to which entourage this sutra was taught. And finally, what is the actual content of this teaching. And so out of these 5, the passage that says, "Thus did I hear at one time," is showing the time at which this teaching was given, sutra was taught.
Jambadan Jambayon Sanaduji Teta Namre, the Yuri Tiba Tomondina, then a Kunga would do Sonda, Nivan Kola Soba Redu Yuri, Tindika Guide, Duapo Teta Namji, Tama Jamdin Dun the Nigilla songs, don't name the Nigilla songs to say, Guide Duapo, Ya Guya, you could Niji take the Yuris.
Kunda Deba Bolamna.
And so, so for those of you who have studied sutras with me before, this is something that you must already know. But generally speaking, so there's someone who has gathered these teachings, who recalled it, and then he transmits to the next generation, to the people who are studying it. And so this passage that says that did I hear at one time is something that was added by the person who is transmitting this teaching. So for the Mahayana teachings in general, the one who gathered the teachings and then transmitted them was Maitreya or Manjushri, and for the Theravada, then it was either Kashyapa or the other Arhats. And so about the time in the Buddha's life when he gave this teaching, if by trying to estimate the time at which he taught, the Buddha must have been 42 or 43 years. So how are we able to estimate that the Buddha must have been 42 or 43? It is because the Buddha has taken the vows of being a monk when he was about 29, and then he spent 6 years doing ascetic practices, and then he attained enlightenment. And so afterwards, he spent 6 years doing ascetic practices. He got enlightened. And then after, when he started teaching, then he established this tradition of doing summer retreats every year, and this never stopped. And so it is said that this teaching was given at the year that the Buddha spent the summer retreat in the heavenly realm of the 33. And because of that, then we can estimate that the Buddha must have been 42 or 43, because that was when he spent this summer retreat in the heavenly realms. And so we know that it is the 7th summer retreat that the Buddha has spent in the heavenly realms of the 33, and he did that sitting on this harmonica-like flat stone. And as we can see in the sutra, it is taught from that place, so we know that it was at that time that it was given. And so it is very clear from the words of the sutras that the teacher, the one who has expounded this teaching, is the Bhagavad himself. And so about the place where this sutra was taught, then it is like we read it here. The Blessed One was seated on the harmonic like flat rock, so this shows the place. And so the place where the Buddha gave this teaching or taught the sutra is not in our world, in the Jambu world, but it is in the 33 gods, which is on top of the Mount Meru, and is the place where Indra lives. And so this flat rock is found in the heavenly realms, where at the basis of the tree that the wish fulfilling tree, and so at the feet of this tree there must be a big rock, flat rock that is put down, and so it must be at that place that the Buddha has given this teaching. And so this flat rock is said to be have the color of lapis lazuli, and must be and is said to be extremely soft to the touch and very extremely comfortable to sit on. So that is what is found in other sutra. And then there's on top of it, there's the canopy of the tree. And so the retinue, the auditory of this teaching, it is said that it was made of man and of gods and other beings. And so when we hear with him were the great hearers such as Venerable Ashvajit, so he is a man. And Ashvajit is said to be one of the 5 first students of the Buddha, and he is praised as being the one whose conduct is the most perfect. And great hearers is a reference to Arhats, which is to say that there were many Arhats listening. And so for the arhats that are able to go at in the heavenly realms of the 33, and then it is not every kind of arhat that has this ability to go there, because it is not because one has attained the level of arhatship that one is able to perform miracles. And so those who do not have these abilities then will not have been able to go to the heavenly realms of 33. And so it is only these arhats who are liberated from the 2 kinds that were able to attend this teaching. And so then the text continues by saying, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, such as noble Maitreya, noble Avalokiteshvara, and Vajrapani, who were adorned with immeasurable precious qualities. And so this shows that there were also Bodhisattvas who were attending. And so those are the ones that we usually hear about. And so then it is said that there were not only normal bodhisattvas, but here we talk about mahasattvas, bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, which refers to bodhisattvas who are able to, who have reached the not only the bodhisattva bhumis, but from the 8th bhumi onwards. And then afterwards, after mahasattvas, we find that it is said who are adorned with immeasurable precious qualities. And so this is yet another category of bodhisattvas. And so these bodhisattvas are those who have reached the 10th bhumi. So it is for this reason that they reach immeasurable precious qualities, such as the dharanis, the strength, powers, etc.
flag dancing jike jabo tani ke ta flag ke zo tin de da tap ji du du ke kabla da yang ndo de so se khole yore se
然后呢，接下来
And
后
so
面
they were in the assembly of those who were listening to this sutra. They were not only hearers and bodhisattvas, but they were also beings who were ordinary beings, such as, so this is what comes next, as well as various gods such as Brahma, who is the Lord of Saha world, Narayana, which is a reference to Krishna, the great Ishvara, Shakra, who is the chief of the gods, and Panchasika, who is the king of the Gandharvas. So he's the Lord of a section of beings.
Runi yuksatini ya long jamden de kundul pha kongso ke kyarni lagu thakwa chik de zani pimho yeme langa rab chi chemalo chode jamden de kalawa de loso thamo jarwa de jamden de lan de keji solto se ya jamden de lan driji shibare so
那在这些眷属
And
里
then
面，
after that, the sutra says that the one who actually requested this teaching was Avalokiteshvara. So that's why we read on that occasion the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara rose from his seat and having drained his upper robe upon over one shoulder, knelt down with his right knee on the peak of Mount Meru, his palms together. He then bowed towards the Blessed One and asked him and addressed to him with these words. And so something that we can understand from the part where it is said that Avalokiteshvara has draped his upper robe over one shoulder, then we can understand that usually Chandrasi is depicted, or we see him as having the clothes of a lay person, but here it is clear that he has the form of a monk, of an ordained person. And so, and out of the robes here, so there are the three robes of the monks, and out of them, one of the three robes of fully ordained monks is this laga, this upper robe. And so it is this upper robe that Avalokiteshvara draped over his shoulder, one shoulder. So when we read he knelt down with his right knee on the peak of Mount Meru, then it sounds a little bit strange, doesn't it? Because in all the sutras that are taught in our world, and then the only thing we find is that he knelt down on the floor, on the ground. And we will not find any sutra that says knelt down with his right knee on the peak of the Mount Meru. But because the heavenly realm of 33 is on top of the Mount Meru, then this is what we find here in this sutra. And so the tip of the peak of the Mount Meru, if we want to know how vast, how large it is, and then our world is extremely small compared to how large the peak of the Mount Meru is. It's a very large place. And so whatever the case, so this Bodhisattva and then showed his respect by kneeling down his right knee on the floor, on the peak of the Mount Meru, then put his palms together and bowed towards the Blessed One. And so the Buddhas then what Avalokiteshvara asked the Buddha was the following. So he addressed to him these words: "Blessed One, these gods all really wish to build a stupa." And so he was saying that all the people in the assembly at that moment had the wish to build stupas. And so now the sutra reads, now they are present in this sanctuary. So it means, so this refers to all the gods who are present at the place where the Buddha was teaching. And so Avalokiteshvara was saying that all of them want to build stupas. And so in short, this means that they had the intention to accumulate merit. And so afterwards, it continues by saying, please teach them the Dharma in such a way so that their merit of Brahma will increase, and the merits of the monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen will increase much more than that of all types of beings in the worlds of gods, Maras, and Brahmas, including renunciants and Brahmins. So that is what Avalokiteshvara requested to the Buddha. And so when it says here the merit of Brahma will increase, so that the merit of Brahma increase, so the merit of Brahma is compared to be extremely great in this samsara, the world of desire and form. And so in terms of the quantity or the greatness of the merits that allow one person to become a Brahma, then it is said that the merits of Brahma is extremely great. And so about this Brahma merits, the merits of Brahma, then it is said in some sutras that it is extremely great. And in order to make that point, then, for example, in sutras that are teaching how to accumulate, how to practice the four immeasurable thoughts, and then it is said, it is explained right after that practicing the four immeasurable thoughts will make the person accumulate enough merit to be able to be reborn in the world of Brahma and to be reborn as Brahma himself.
chisaji gelhong masaya ti jamden de khornaw jing na gelhong marwa genhi ma teda thamji jeba ina sunam mong the pewan jugu yore si jamden de jin do khashi na de song yore ba pena song a data to data ndana ina yo tani jamden de cheji ta sunam pewa service sedo chöti jingwan de banda thamje la tani chute no ji si ya shubares
대다 기체
And so here and so the request continues by saying that please see them in order so that the merits of those who are listening to the teaching will increase more and more than the merits of the monks, the nuns, laymen, and laywomen. So more and more than the world of gods, Maras, Brahmas, including the mentioned and Brahmins. And so the Buddha has
제바 이나 소남 책 요송 요르바 오다 도조 덴디진 페베긴 패수게 름바 소남 페베게 름바 데다 땡요 점네디 송안 나이게 다다 까나야 소루지 있는데 야 휴주 휴동도 보지 덴디지 휴도아
老说，那就是呢，说这里呢，这些
the merits that are the merits of beings such as the gods and Maras and Brahmas, and then renunciants and Brahmins, so are respectively in increasing quantity. And because of that, then here the request is made so that the Buddha teaches something in order that the merits of those listening will increase much more than that of all those different types. And so the Buddha has taught in other sutras. So here, when it says more and more than that and that, so this is a reference to the other teachings of the Buddha, other sutras, when the Buddha teaches how to accumulate merits to match the merits of monks and nuns or other types of practitioners. And so in short, the Buddha is, so the request is made that the Buddha teaches a way to accumulate a great amount of merits. So until now, what we have seen is the time when this the sutra was given, the teacher who gave this teaching, and the entourage or the assembly who was listening to the teaching, and the place where this teaching happens. And then after this, then now actually comes the perfect teaching. And so we're going to make a break, and then we're actually going to start the content of it. So we have about 8 minutes that are left, and after we'll gather together and continue this teaching.
Lasso,
Okay, so time is up, right? Okay, so let's start again. And so in order to summarize what we have said until now, then the sublime Avalokiteshvara has addressed the Buddha, requesting him to give teaching, so has thought about beings out of his great compassion and asked the Buddha to explain a method to accumulate great merits. And so when we look at the way that the Buddha has given this teaching on the essence of the dependent arising, then it's actually the Buddha actually gave this as a method to to build stupas and to fill them. And so the next sentence says, at this the Blessed One spoke the verses of dependent arising.
Neroda evam ba di maha sharmana se tene ha kan runda wuji mbina sumchu songa yode juji intere ma tene ji songbares.
And so this is the mantra or the dharani that the Buddha has uttered. And so this dharani has 35 syllables.
Te peke tol so juyong de sana chu kong jujong de da ki jodong tengu koyen ba de yishi peka sa de gejong chimpe de ke song se danda de nga de ke danda de so juyong de dande cha de yores.
And so this mantra, when it is translated the meaning is as follows: all phenomena that arise from causes, the Tathagata has taught their causes, and that which is their cessation thus has proclaimed the great intention. And so if we just look at this mantra, then it looks to be just one line which contains only 35 syllables. But looking at the meaning that this conveys, it is actually a great summary containing all the great teachings of the Buddha.
Jima kita de chugi te mengan do ni motela chugi te mendo de to tung tung de yure de kapsula yana yanga ke kache drink macha ba yana de du shu chugi do dadan di tendi himbu gondon de ma do ke jozi ke tan ta tendi himbu korang ke jozi ke tan da danen de ke lechu namda mombo chuji yode den zongchu zong ke choga se gwa de mombo yode de zong에 rimbargi de kong totobji ma And
so for me to convey all these teachings to you, and then today we'll have some time, but maybe I won't have enough time to cover everything I want to cover. So the next sutra is the one that is teaching the 4 factors, and this is a very short sutra. And so I will have some time to continue what I will not have finished today. And so at that time, I will continue cover the teaching, and so the meaning of the mantra of the essence of dependent arising would be taught, and then after that, there's the ritual for filling the stupas.
Jurji tsik diktung dramada dilayang pachi marawa je guchi pande tatan jejun those.
And so this mantra or this line in Sanskrit, when it was translated in Tibetan, there are small varying translations that were made, and so the Tibetan translators have rendered this sentence in about 7 or 8 different ways.
마 냠도 땡토야게 제추지 요데레스 디 점생거니 다단데 레저지 깨게 돌란 돈데 다단디 한데게 가르땡어스나 페나 년투익동 토몬도 좀 람지 람바 담바이기보데한데 땡어레스
那首先呢，就是
And so the reason for this is that Sanskrit has some specific feature, which is that it allows to show many different meanings by very few words. And so this is one specificity of Sanskrit. And because of that, for example, this essence of interdependence shows the way, the common way of the practice, that one which is followed by the hearers.
然后呢，这个缘起咒呢，也可以
And on top of that, these lines, so the essence of dependent arising, has also showed the 12 links of the dependent arising, both from the origination side, from the one that the side that leads to the samsara, and the one that leads to liberation. And also from the point of view of the Mahayana, then this same essence of dependent arising is also presenting the ultimate view, which is the view of emptiness. And as we have seen in the quote from Aryadeva.
那今天我们会来讲解的
so when I'm going to explain this essence of dependent arising, we're going to do it in 3 times, so in 3 moments. At first, I'm going to present the meaning of this essence of dependent arising according to the path of the hearers, together with the 4 noble truths, and then I'm going to cover the 12 dependent links of the 12 links of dependent arising according to the Svatantrika Madhyamika. And afterwards, in 3rd moment, I'm going to look at the explanation that is specific to the Madhyamikas. And so here, when this it is said, all phenomena arise from causes, etc. So let's look at this explanation from the point of view of the hearers. And so when it says all phenomena, these phenomena are talking about the truth of suffering, and then that arise from causes. So this part of the sentence is actually a reference to the part of the truth of the path, of the cause of suffering, sorry. And the sentence that says, and that which is their cessation, so the cessation of the causes and their own cessation. So this is showing the truth of the path and the truth of cessation. So when we have this part which talks about all phenomena, then this refers to the truth of suffering. And the way that we should understand the truth of suffering here is that the suffering refers to everything, that the 3 types of suffering that we have got from the as beings who are within the samsara. And the cause of these sufferings, and so about the part of the sentences that arise from causes, then it is this suffering is caused by clinging to a self where there's no self, and so this clinging gives rises to the afflictions, to the mental state, the afflictive mental states, and then to the actions, and so these two are the causes for suffering. And then in the quote it says the Tathagata has taught this, and so the one who said that the suffering actually comes from the causes of the suffering, the one who explained this is the Tathagata. And so when it says all those phenomena that arise from causes, so this is the result, the suffering, and then when it says and their cause, the cessation of which is what the Buddha, the Tathagata has taught, and so the cessation of which is referring to the truth of cessation. And so the suffering together with their causes, and then it says that the cessation of the suffering, all the phenomena and their causes. So this is referring to the cessation itself. And then when we understand the cessation, the word cessation as which makes it cease, and then we understand that this is the presentation of the truth of the path. And so the cessation, which is liberation or freedom, so it is nirvana, etc. And so what is the cause for all these phenomena and their causes that have arisen through the causes? So the cause for making them cease is actually the truth of the path. And so this is how the truth of the path is presented. And so the path through which all these phenomena and their causes can be seized, can be made, we can reach the cessation of these, and then which brings the cessation of these. So who expounded them? And then we reach the last line, which says, "Thus has proclaimed the great renunciant." And so here, in the way that we have just seen, then there's the two causes and two pairs of cause and the result. So the suffering and the cause of suffering are the cause and the results that go in the direction of the samsara. Then we have the truth of the path and then cessation, which are the cause and result going in the direction of the nirvana.
Chu kong se ji dongha demba jo se ji kunyo demba tengores tele chongres teda tang te ge jong gobar cheba te ge gopa te gode goze te lamdin te res golam de demba ji tense ta nimba te de ke yang tendi ya la chuni tendi kuni nyomo be ke tendi ya la chuni namjong ke tendi ya la chuni te ma te ke tengores.
那刚才以上呢讲的就是从
And so when we explain this verse according to the four truths, it's quite easy because there's only four things that we must match. So we have the two things that are the causes and the result of that go in the direction of samsara, so the suffering and its cause, and then we have what's the cessation, which is the result of the cessation, and then what which causes the cessation. So in this way, then we can match this verse with the Four Noble Truths, but then now we're going to see how to match it with the 12 links of dependent arising, both in the direction of samsara and that of nirvana. So now, before we go that, then I'm going to make a short explanation of these 12 links of dependent arising. So please look at what we show here. So what we call this samsara, or the incessant wheel of the wheel, this is actually through these 12 links that it turns. And so the first of these 12 elements is ignorance, and this ignorance, if we want to simplify it, make it short, is the fact of not understanding things how they are. And so, for example, the fact of clinging to a self where there is no self, clinging to the existence of all phenomena where there is no existence. So all of these not knowing or wrong clinging are called ignorance. And on top of that, the fact of being unaware of what are the causes and what result they will give. So being unaware and not knowing the law of cause and effect is also one form of ignorance, of not knowing. And so there are usually two types of ignorance. Is the one that corresponds to knowing things how they are, and the ignorance of the law of cause and effect. And then, so this ignorance that we have here gives as its result the formation. So this formation is our actions, karma. And so these formations are actually the karma, and so there are three types of karma. So there are merits, non-merits, and unmovable actions. And so merits is the action that will make beings be reborn in the realms of God and man. Non-merits will make beings be reborn in lower realms, and immovable actions make them be reborn in the higher realms of themselves. And so we have first ignorance, formation, and now consciousness. So this consciousness should be understood as the first consciousness at the very first moment that we enter the womb of our mother. So this consciousness here in this specific consciousness that we call here is the very first moment of consciousness before we are born.
yu dewi ke meng cha te ke nam chi chorwan do hin do ze zuk se ji do zuk te ta nga so tendi yu de ji te ni zong de la ma rambadi ke ta thogura dawa mombo ma tomni kha do mai da na la so bi che che to so ma de pe par ni ke par tong ji ba de la ming zuk chi ge res
那接下来第四支呢，名
And
色呢？
so we have here a name and form, and so name and form is so first there's ignorance, formation, consciousness, and then name and form. So it is all the period during which our body is formed before we are born, after the first moment which we entered the womb of our mothers, and so during the moment that our organs are being constructed. So this is the name and form.
Make to ke zo ma thong ma la make zo thong de make tang yul to so yong nam chi son ten ri pa de chen do ge de ma the pe ngwa ni pa de chen che se ge chen che to
那接下来第六支，对不起，
And so here, what we call six sense sources is from the moment that these sense organs are built in the fetus, but they are not yet able to perceive their respective objects of perception. So the period between these two moments is what we call six sense sources.
Yul the tajon the pen homborendo the seborendo the porendo the pomorendo the combarendo the that ni tajo ya yoruba tele request is
and
the contact is the moment where the being that is going to be born can actually distinguish very clearly and decide that the object of perception is, for example, for the visual object, that what is seen is blue or yellow, and that this is something big, small, etc. So when the contact between the sense consciousness, the sense objects, and the organs happens, and when the person is, or the being is able to distinguish clearly between the objects of perception, then this is what we call contact. And so there are six types of contacts, which corresponds to the six consciousness and six organs and six senses. And then when an object when the contact happens with one of the organs, then this brings the feelings. And so the feeling can be agreeable when the object is perceived as agreeable. It can be disagreeable when the object is not liked, or it can be neutral. So these are the three types of feelings.
Pena tanga zo namju kusumbu dendu yorwa kusumbu chaya ke chowa kusumbu de gagdwa dendi chincha yorwa dende denda tang tegendo chowa kibo ta chowa koran chowa kibo yongala chincha yorwa ti chowa dongha pa tandu ki chincha yorwa chowa la cha de ki lo tile sikpa sila ure sipa.
So here the craving is the craving of wanting more of the agreeable sensations, feelings, or the craving of being liberated from something that is not nice, or the craving of wanting to be in a neutral state, neutral feeling, just like when we are craving to just be in a calm environment without anything going on.
想要继续保持在这个状态里面呢，这个也是相应于舍受的这个爱。
但呢，lamba sejite当错话了讲的错话个有了的，有的了都错了，啷什么gagarwa，当我说变了 lamba sejite错话电话用个有的说变被拆个呢，卡拉全部了ga야进多啊，这卡拉全部가리치 gagar卡拉全部sana错话这部用的卡拉全部了ga야个路那不当，但那个result 고생 정보를 가야 한다고 또 다 대도 tel라서 초와 대화 기부터 좀 용할색 그 규도 솔라 괜히 잡고 로텔라 람바스 그랬어.
那接下来第九支呢，就是
And so after that comes grasping. And so this grasping is the craving, or is the fact of wanting the cause of the agreeable feelings. It's just like when we are attached to food. We attach to food because we know that this will bring an agreeable feeling or taste. And so because of being attached to the nice feeling, then we are attached also to the cause of that nice feeling. And so the same, yes, this is what the grasping is.
简单的说呢，爱和取这两者都是
And
贪
so
着。
whatever the case here, grasping is this attachment or this wanting the cause that will bring some nice feeling, or to want to be attached to the cause of something that will get rid of not nice feeling. And both of them are forms of attachment, but craving is on the side of the result, and grasping is on the side of the result. And so so I just missed becoming.
Mahingal Davuta, Julie Jebatang, Gangli Jembala Karina, Pampo, Jevike, Pompongabotela, Jevas Higris, Ninsum Jurat.
那接下来呢，就是
what is called here birth is actually the actions that are going to bring about the birth in a certain place. So entering the womb of the building up of the body that we'll have is this birth. And so aging is the fact of becoming old and the body being not so nice. And then death is the moment when the organ of the life-sustaining organ is stopped. And so this is the moment that's death. And so bringing both aging and death together, then we reach this 12 link of dependent arising. And so out of these 12 links of dependent arising, we can categorize two groups, those that are related to the cause and those to the result. And so, for example, ignorance and formations are respectively affliction and an action. So both of them on the side of the cause, and then 8 and 9, which is craving and grasping, are also on the side of action and affliction. So they're on the side of the cause. And then the consciousness, name or form, sense, 6 sense sources, feeling and contact are all on the side of the result. And also birth and aging, and that also, which makes the links related to the result 7. And so categorizing the 12 links in this way makes it easy to understand or to explain the verse of the sutra.
chū kōng jūsōng tētā nē jūdōng tēngō kōng yinpa tē yī bē kātsa tē gēsōng chīmbi tē kēsōng sōng tī tsāna tā chū nam chū kōng sāyā tē chū nam sēchī tē kē tā tāngu tēndī yānā chūnyi kī nā nē tēndī yānā tā tā dūm tē tēng yō rēs pē nā tēndī yānā sōmbā, yewā, ngāwā, chūpā dāmbā chē chūkī chūnyi dā chē tē tī dūmbu tē chū nam kōngdā sē tē rēbu tētā chū tētā sē kuwā tē chē chū nam chū kōng jūsōng sē chū kōng sē yā tē tēlā kōgō rēs.
那首先呢，这
So
个
in the Sutra, so the passage that corresponds in Sutra reads, all phenomena arise from causes, and the Tathagata has on their cause. And so here, when we talk about all the phenomena, so this is out of the 12 links, this is referring to 7 of them: 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 11, and 12. And when it is told about has to their cause, so this corresponds to the other 5 that are left.
其他的这5个，也就是用蓝色和这个紫色标出的部分。
중아부터 가르쳤나 다 말이 빠당 근데 도제스다 베나 텐디 야나 동보다 니바제 데네 스팔 nempa 스파세디 마 dumba 제파 고바드렌도와 말에다 제파 고바 쪼아드렌도와 오티 나부터 테니 주텔테니 종말에서
And so the phenomena that arise from causes, so when it is said that they arise, the Buddha has their cause, so the cause that we are talking about here is ignorance and formation, first 2, then 8, 9, and 10, craving, becoming, and grasping. And so this passage that states that when all phenomena that arise from causes, which is the 7 links that are the results, and together with their cause, so the Tathagata has told their cause, so these 5 ones, when all of them are ceased, or the cessation of these phenomena and their causes, then this explains the 12 links in the direction of getting out of samsara, and getting to the nirvana.
那这里呢，就是比呢，就是指的刚才说的这些7个果，还有5个因，那他们的这个坏灭呢，也就是这里所说的。
Teni pena ta teni sheo de chu kong jujong teda ke se de kuni nyomo bu ki tendi yana juni de tembares.
So when it is said all phenomena that arise from causes, so this is the way of showing how these 12 links actually create the samsara. Starting from ignorance until aging and death.
所说的这个法呢，就是指的12缘机制里面的这个烦恼杂染，也就是这个功德，也就是这个蓝色标出的部分。
대다 기조동 탱고 공에 봐 세지티 남성 디펜디 주니 땡여레스 넘버 2.
The passage that says their cause and the way that it ceases, so this passage in Tibetan is showing the 12 links in the direction of getting beyond suffering into the nirvana.
Number Kibangana, Mizo Gana, Jenchenga, Ripanga, Suanga, Sipangana, Lembagana, Jawangana, Gashin Gaya, Yoroma. Or tell Namzon Tendi and Tunisi Grace.
And so the 12 links that go in the direction of reaching beyond suffering is saying that if ignorance is blocked, or if ignorance ceases, then formation ceases. If formation ceases, consciousness ceases. If consciousness ceases, name and form cease. If name and form ceases, then 6 sense sources cease. If sixth sense ceases, then contact ceases, and then feeling and then grasping, craving, becoming birth and ending and death. And so it is in this way that the 12 links that go to the direction of going beyond suffering is explained. And so here it is further said that all phenomena that arise from the causes, meaning the 12 links that go in the direction of the samsara, who taught that? Then it is Tathagata who taught it. And then the one who taught their cause and that which is the cessation, so the 12 links going in the direction of the nirvana, who taught it? Then the text is, thus has proclaimed the great Nanchen, which is Tathagata himself. And so thinking about this is also the order in which meditation on 12 links is taught. And so there are two ways that are presented in order to meditate on the 12 links of the dependent arising, one that goes in the direction of samsara, the other in the direction of nirvana. And before we can actually start meditating about the links, then we must, of course, identify and know which one gives rise to which one, to know them. So once we have learned what are the 12 links, then it is easy to meditate on the side of going from ignorance until aging and death in the samsara. So, for example, when we meditate on shamatha, then we have this technique of meditating upon the breath. So we look at the breath that is coming in, staying in our lungs, and then going out, and then being attentive to this. And so this type of meditation is called the meditation of shamatha. And so meditating about the 12 links of dependent arising is called meditating on vipassana. And so there's nothing that cannot be easily understood in the meditation of vipassana.
Maripala la teni, Duze in Jungues, Marik be Jujin Sabalatin, Duze in Jungere, Duze Jujila Duze Latini, number ship at Jungere, number ship Latini, Mizolitin Tini, Genchel Tini, Rigua Ribitini, the Digine, Marber in the Sam Ganana, remembering the Telatini, Tenjong, Telatini, Tenjong, and Marik Vichin Tini, Gashipa, remembering that the Digima Gumna tended the Lungjung gums Higris.
So here's how it is done. So we should first think about the ignorance and think, okay, ignorance is the cause, and then bring the conditions together for formation to arise. Formation in turns is the cause of consciousness. Consciousness is the cause of name and form, which is the cause of the six senses, which is the cause of contact, which is the cause of feelings, craving, grasping, becoming, etc. And so meditating and thinking about each of these links being the cause from the other is meditating on the side of the generation of samsara. And so now for the reverse order. So first, when we meditate on and so the order in which this meditation is proposed, so from ignorance, formation, etc., until the 12. So not only is this the way that we should meditate, but it is also in this way that the 12 links actually devolve, occur, or come to being.
所以说呢，这样的一种禅修的方式呢，就是12缘习气的流转的这个观的禅修。
다 텐데지 강용도 대 그판다 가래용 그랬으나 텐데지는 강도 되나 다단디 다다 레도 녀모 보긴 데원 카토 바테다 동하 덴바 가실라 수바트 렌도 바테 하고용 그레스.
And so the reason for which we are meditating on this is to realize that the ultimate result of the afflictions and the actions will be the birth, aging, and death, and all the suffering. So it is the truth of suffering. And so there's also another way of meditating on these 12 links, which is the reverse order. And so we should meditate on that from the last element backwards until the first one. So starting from aging and death upwards. So we have seen now that we're starting from ignorance downwards to the formation, consciousness, etc. So we were meditating downwards from the first one. And so meditating backwards in the reverse order, starting from aging and death and then going up to until the ignorance. For example, if we think about when aging and death are coming from, it comes from birth. This is what we should think in our minds. And birth, where it comes from becoming. And becoming, where does it come from? From grasping. So we should think about this and to meditate on that. And so we're going from the last one until upwards. And so we are going then reaching until ignorance. And so meditating in this way is meditating on the 12 links in the reverse order.
那就像这样的方式，一直到最上面呢，我们就会看到呢，就是最终这些呢，就是由无明而产生的。所以像这样次序的从下面一直往上面到无明呢，就是一种怀灭的禅修的方式。
And then the reason why we call this the reverse order is because when we are meditating, practitioners are meditating, we are starting from aging and death, starting upwards. But in the real order of the way things occur, it is always from ignorance and formation backwards. It does not come from aging upwards. And so, because the way that the meditator is actually looking at the 12 elements and the way that they occur in real life is in opposition, it is for that reason that we call this way of meditating the reverse order.
但是目前这个禅修呢，是从思维，从下面往上面，老死的因是什么？是生，生的因是什么？是有，这样子，它和实际的这个因果的产生的方式是逆的，所以呢，就称为逆的或者说还灭的这个禅修的方式。
Okay, so this is what it says here: all phenomena that arise from causes. Out of the 12 elements, the meditation. That is in the order, but then coming on the order of and becoming free from the 12 elements in the meditation and the order of the beyond suffering nirvana, then there's nothing also that cannot be understood. It's not easy. So the main reason for which we should meditate it, we should meditate on the 12 elements from so in the way that they unfold from the ingredients unfold is in order to understand what is the cause of the suffering. So when we were going to be meditating on the order of getting rid of the samsara, so at the beginning we were meditating on the ignorance gives the formation, this in turn comes and so here the order will be that if now ignorance is stopped, then what happens? So just in the same way that once there's no fire, then there will be no smoke, and so if ignorance ceases, then formation, etc. And then if consciousness ceases, then name and form will also cease. If they cease, then and then we can go downwards the 12 elements. And so this is the order of the order of the reversal of this 12 links of dependent arising. And so once we are meditating on this, the results, the ultimate result of this meditation will be, or the ultimate reason for which we meditate in this reverse way is to reach the cessation, so the truth of cessation. And so meditating on the elements on the reverse order, so please show in the PowerPoint that is going to show that. So the way that we should meditate is looking at the 11th element, birth. So if birth stops, then aging and death. If becoming stops, then birth stops. If grasping stops, becoming stops. If craving stops, grasping stops. And then we go upwards that way. So this is the reversed order of meditating on the 12 links of dependent arising. So before we were looking at the meditating from ignorance downwards, and now we're going to start from the end and going upwards. So if the birth stops, then aging and death will stop. So there's no birth, then it cannot be aging and death, isn't it? So if becoming is ceased, then birth cannot happen. If there's no grasping, becoming cannot happen. If there's no craving, grasping cannot happen, etc. So this way, this order of meditating. Okay, so this is the way to meditate on the 12 links of dependent truth according to the order of occurrence and the reverse order. So this is what is showed here in this verse of the sutra. And then, so in these verses, so today we do not have much more time, and the way that these four verses actually present the interdependence or the dependent arising according to the Madhyamika view, then we're going to see this tomorrow. So not tomorrow, but in the next session. So I still have 2-3 minutes now. So I would like to request some more 2-3 minutes to finish this section. It's nothing complicated. So once the Buddha has finished uttering this essence of dependent arising, so explaining things and saying that this is what the great Renunciation proclaimed, then he addressed Avalokiteshvara saying, Avalokiteshvara, it is like this. So this is how things are. And so then the Buddha said, this dependent arising is the Dharmakaya, so the ultimate body or the kaya of and the Dharma of all the Tathagatas. The person who sees dependent arising sees the Tathagata. So this explanation of this I will explain tomorrow according to the viewpoint of the Madhyamika.
So hin the cup don't the bakul and metal ki seba zela tingin rewan yong a chujin ki six jeba non the jona de chomperson of jeban in yurte deni hip chibi dusena someone did that the jeban in euros that the day take koron machi kwalang in the digorma let how rendo.
And so then the so there's a point where it looks like a negation, but it actually came to understand that's where people are living. So the passage goes, it is if a faithful son or daughter of noble family was built in a place where people are living, not uninhabited place, a stupa, even one no bigger than a gooseberry fruit, with a central pillar the size of a needle and a parasol the size of a flower of the bakula tree, and then inserts into it the verse of dependent arising, which is the Dhammadhatu, he or she will generate the merit of Brahma. And then when such persons pass on from here and die, they will be reborn in the world of Brahma. So then this passage can be understood literally, there's nothing complicated to it. And so when such person passes on from here and dies, they will be reborn in the world of Brahma. And when they pass on from here and die, they will be reborn with fortunes equaling those of the gods of the pure abodes. After the blessing, one has thus spoken. The hearers, bodhisattvas, the whole assembly, the universal gods, Asuras and Gandharvas rejoice and praise these words. And so now here we have the colophon, the conclusion, which says this concludes the noble Mahayana Sutra on dependent arising.
Suriya sadi pada songchuk nimanda semado ta Suriyan board ta huji jilo sa pendi higi jutte ne tela phabares ta te chitong ta terenga sundi no yonki yon soni jima mayonki yon sibare teaching ma cha songaji didi ji shui teni ti kon ta da ke je he goya nega kha he ji la de te soni nyam de te ma nyam de shui beso jigins.
And then after that we have the part that says that it was translated, but with the participation of the Pandita Konsurendra Bodhi, together with the translator Bende Yeshide. And so I wanted to cover the whole sutra because there might be people who might not be able to join tomorrow. So this will be filmed. And then the part that I have left, then we're going to cover tomorrow.
Teni tereng tatan tengin dewa nyun do de ma teni kare sogoro song ge du song se ge ne song ba po song sa ge yo teni o song ju ge chu to so kan de yime de pusam so ba nga ge goni ma du du ji shu sim ba yin la teni ha ge dan se na nda ten ji ge dan ngo ma khorang ge de ge jesu ge dan de nyen tu je lam re no tan be dan ba ge de ja so jam hi su ji dang. So we have
covered this sutra going point by point, first on the time where this teaching was given, then the place where it was given, the teacher who expounded this teaching, and then the assembly who received this teaching. And in this way we have presented the sutra according to the 5 perfections. I have covered this in not very elaborately, and then I have also explained the essence of dependent arising according to the 4 truths, for the way that the hearers take it.
jurtung kandin jugu yume teda cheba kandin yume tene zongha chene nyom se lendi lentong kandin yume ke ta teda thamje ngoje du shuya kan zigi yu tene tren ta nga zo tana sam ya yins.
I have also presented this essence of dependent arising according to the solitary practitioner of solitary Buddha Buddhas using the 12 links of dependent arising. And then tomorrow we'll see the way that the Madhyamikas understand it, so the great vehicle, and then we'll also see how it can be understood as a Goya mantra, Vidya mantra, and Dharani mantra, and how we can practice it as a Dharani mantra. So this I'm going to present tomorrow. So this mantra of the essence of dependent arising is a mantra that is extremely useful, used in many different ways. And so this mantra of the essence of dependent arising is extremely powerful. And so just to give an example, we can say that it is this one wide thing that does everything. And so this was in the past times a medicine that was said to be able to cure all medicines. And so we're going to see tomorrow how this one mantra is used to get rid of all obstacles and accomplish all our everything we want to do. We don't have time for the question and answer, but tomorrow we're going to hold the session. And so for now, so for now, we must have accumulated great merits by listening and thinking about this profound sutra. So we're going to dedicate the merits. Please recite in your language, Chinese or English. Through this merit, may all beings attain the omniscient state of enlightenment and conquer the enemy of faults and delusion. May they all be liberated from this ocean of samsara and from its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death.
Thank you, Khenpo. Thank you, Padala. Thank you so much. And we'll see everybody on day after tomorrow. 谢谢堪布，谢谢两位口译的老师，然后我们后天线上见，谢谢。
Okay, see you. Bye.
Thank you, Khenpo.
सुप्रभवा हेतुं तेषां तथागतो ह्यवदत् तेषां च योनिरो